Oh, you beautiful monster, you! It has been a long, long time since I had such a visceral reaction of disgust, of detestation towards a villain in any media. Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today, we are going to take a look at Transformers Energon, book number 2. I really liked this book, but I had a really hard time saying why until I had to sit down and write it out. I had to think about it. Why did this book keep me reading page after page? It didn't quite grip me the way that Kaiju number 8 does with its fast-paced action and beautiful line art. I could and did delay finishing it after starting it, but once I really got into it, I needed to finish. I wanted to finish. I figured I'd sit down and just start talking about it like I do about most Transformers comics, but well, that didn't work. I had to actually sit down and start thinking. Start writing, which for me is kind of the same thing. To think clearly, I have to write my thoughts down, or they just kind of filter in through one ear and out the other. So now we are going to jettison ourselves into the spoilers. So to give you a chance to click away, I'm going to tell you to go take a look below the video at the link and get yourself something to take the edge off your need for giant aliens rampaging through forests with my books, Flying Sparks, Dragons, Aliens, and Things That Go Boom in the Night. So now we are going, one of the elements that ironically made this book hard to talk about was that each panel was doing so many things. In fact, dare I say that each scene was doing at least 3 things. Maybe, if not, it was close. Optimus opens the book with his reaction to the forest outside the cave. He is shown as being very tender and innocent. He is fascinated by the natural life on Earth and takes time to notice things as tiny as a tree frog. Now, tree frogs are tiny to humans. A tree frog to a full-grown human is a larger size difference than a regular human to Optimus Prime. But this absolute nerd who spends his time examining tiny life forms, yeah, that's Optimus. You have this classic opening scene of the alien and the human exchanging names and meaning. This is very sweet. It's very well done in this book. It doesn't feel like just another tired re-going of this concept. This is Optimus Prime, after all. As he explores Spike's world with more childlike wonder than the little child can muster, it's kind of sad, because this is Optimus Prime after all. As quickly as it becomes clear that he is full of innocence, it's also clear that he is full of scars and painful history, and Spike is too. And this scene builds that up so well. There's this one image that's just full of meaning. Optimus in his pain, sitting hunched over under the crushing weight of Cybertron being at the top of the panel, Spike in his pain, sitting perched on but buoyed up by a world that he's just a small part of, a world that he has not yet taken responsibility for, not like his father has. You see reflected in Optimus that same brokenness we glimpsed in Spike's father Sparkplug back in book 1, but it's mediated by the fact that Optimus is, in his own way, taking responsibility for the brokenness of his world. Optimus is trying to do something about the brokenness of that world. He's only pausing in this moment because there is nothing he can do right now. And then later, in this book, we see Sparkplug no longer running from his past, no longer hiding from his pain. He is once more standing up, taking responsibility, taking action. This relationship between Spike, his father Sparkplug, and Optimus Prime, I think it's going places, and I am along for this ride. This contrast between letting the injustice and the suffering in the world crush you versus standing up and trying to do something about it. See, Optimus might not understand the concept of mother and father. Teletran 1 seems to have been able to give Optimus to download into his brain the sound so that he can repeat it and ask questions about it. But there was no Cybertronian concepts to anchor them to. There are no parents on Cybertron. Family, however, There clearly was a concept to anchor that word to, and those anchors go deep into Optimus's spark. This is why I find it so interesting that Optimus didn't name Megatron to Spike in that first description. Optimus only calls him the most powerful Decepticon. Is the story going to play down the bond between Optimus and Megatron? Or play it up in conjunction with Optimus' deep understanding of family? Is Optimus so traumatized by Megatron's betrayal because he considered Megatron his brother? Or does he simply consider Megatron an outside threat to his actual family? Another telling image comes in the small rectangle of a flashback as the backwash from the Ark's thrusters bathes Cybertronian landscape in flames as the ships take off. This is a pretty dark implication of what the Autobots left behind on their home planet, what the Autobots themselves might be responsible for. Then, lest we get too wrapped up in Optimus Prime and forget that there are abrasive jerkwads everywhere, we have Cliffjumper, who reacts to humans the exact same way that most of us would react to a creature that was about half our size, far too soft and slimy to boot. Imagine, if you would, a gelatinous rat. That is what we probably look like to your average Cybertronian, and our resident, what a psychologist would call extremely low in agreeableness, and what someone with lesser vocabulary would use shorter words for. Cliffjumper is having exactly none of it until Carly snaps and shows him that humans are at least good for a heated argument, and showing that Carly has just at least equally low agreeableness when she needs to. It looks like we'll be getting plenty of Cliffjumper for now, so we'll just have to wait and see how well the Red Demon lives up to his self-professed name. But we can't forget the Decepticons after all. Starscream, after brutally murdering that nice Davy guy, is off clapping not-so-random Joes. You do remember that bald-headed friend of Sparkplug's who, by dying in the first book, indicated that he wasn't going to be important going forward except as a moral motivator for Sparkplug. Remember how to drive home the threat of the Decepticons. Remember how I said that each frame in this comic is doing 3 things? Yeah, so was Davy. You remember how from book number 1, how Carly and Spike's life were so different. How even though they're probably at the same economic level, Carly has a dad that not only supported her choices, but was 100% behind her emotionally and practically. He brought her nice gifts that were both thoughtful and expensive, like tools that would help her with her chosen trade of being an artist. Do you remember that nice guy who is clearly his loving daughter's whole world? Well, it turns out that that's Sparkplug's best friend, Davy. Do you recall that Spike has already lost his mother and presumably his brother? Well, now he's going to have to add his uncle to that dark list. Apparently the only other adult who cared enough about him and his father to interfere in their lives. His best friend's father. The only point of stable adult security. And Starscream. Just going off on a completely different tangent. What Davy's death told us about Starscream was very, very important information. Every other brutal thing Starscream has done from the beginning of book 1 to the end of book 2 has the legitimacy of being acts of war. Yes, Bumblebee was helpless, but Bumblebee is an Autobot warrior who had no doubt tangled with Starscream many a time. It was implied that Starscream calling him weak and or useless was just an insult and not a reality. It is brutal to end your enemies while they're helpless, but I mean, let's be honest here. It's good tactics. These Autobots and Decepticons are trying to kill each other. Starscream sees an Autobot, he kills it. But that's just war. Not something Optimus would do, of course, but Optimus is Optimus for good reason. But that human that Starscream took out during book 2? Also a legitimate military target. And from any reasonable perspective, the mind piloting the weapon is the hardest part to replace and therefore the most important part to take out. Again, taking out a human fighter pilot who was actively engaging him in aerial combat was brutal, especially after the pilot has jettisoned, but at the very least, pragmatic and effective towards an end goal of conquering this world. But killing Davy, a random worker at a power plant. There's no actual military reason for that. In fact, it's counterproductive. The Decepticons can't maintain these power plants themselves. They need the workers there. And so Starscream is acting against his own best interests by killing Davy. That action showed us clearly that Starscream simply loves to randomly kill things. He takes joy in killing creatures, and the greater capacity that creature has for suffering, the better. Starscream is a sadistic monster above and beyond being a brutal and effective soldier. I mean, look, for instance, the difference between Genghis Khan and Dracula, and the historical inspiration behind Dracula. One of them was a conqueror, killed many people, and yet is not held in nearly as great revulsion as the other because of the tactics used. Because of the implication that, well, some soldiers kill brutally because it achieves their goal, some just do it because they like doing it. And you have Starscream, who kills just for the sake of killing and enjoys it, contrasted with Optimus, who grieves over killing even a deer, or non-sapient being, by accident. And you see it, there's an entire panel where Optimus takes a moment to respectfully place the deer's body on the ground before going to greet a friend. So, with one brutal murder and one accident venison processing, the creators are doing so much here. They are contrasting the good guys and the bad guys. They are emotionally gutting every human character we care about and are establishing the stakes of this war. A Decepticon victory would be unacceptable. They're commanded by a violent psychopath who simply enjoys torture. And the most important thing they are setting up for you is a gut punch at the end of book 2, which happens to be the second most impactful gut punch that makes you detest Starscream. This book is just so dense. There's so much in here. But what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Tell me in a comment below how gleefully you detest Starscream. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
Drake McCarty's leg was shattered, deep in the wilderness. As the flash flood closed over him, something alien pulled him from the waters. A military base that shouldn't exist. An ancient warrior with secrets of his own. Drake returns to his family with a whole leg and the burden of a secret he doesn't understand. In the forest around them, someone is watching, and something followed him home. Flying Sparks. 90,000 words of science fantasy adventure. The first novel in the Dying Embers universe is now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and from the author as a signed copy. Get your copy now and step into a world where dragons walk the forest, aliens lurk on the mountain, and things go boomp in the night.
Escape into another world with the writings of author Betty Adams. Two worlds, one of utter absurdity, one of dramatic tension, both alike in aliens absolutely astounded by human behavior. Humans are weird, short, absurd science fiction stories. Flying sparks, dragons, aliens, and things that go boom in the night.
Books available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and at authorBettyAdams.com for a signed copy.